The Detroit Tigers lose Game 1 against the Houston Astros as Tarek Skubal trade rumors get hotter and hotter.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, June 26th, 2026. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Let there be goals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Tigers lose 2-1 at the hands of the Houston Astros on Thursday evening. A very quick ball game, a good old-fashioned pitcher's duel for both starters, just having fantastic outings. The Tigers fall to 34-47 as the Astros improve to 40-33. First thought is I literally have in all caps, woof. And I want to start off by saying I thought that MI had a fantastic game, and his command was excellent. It's far better than what we have seen from him for the most part throughout the year, and the stuff is very clearly good. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure that out. The slider he was offering in this game I thought was truly remarkable. It also has to be said that the Detroit Tigers shake and quiver in fear when a struggling pitcher with an ERA over 6 takes the mound against them. I mean, it is staggering. Again, Amai was great. He was around the zone. We talked about it yesterday. The stuff is still good, even if he's having a rough year. All of that is very true, and he deserves a ton of credit for this start, obviously. But it is staggering how awful the Tigers consistently have been against pitchers having bad seasons or with very little experience over the last several years. And this year has been no different. We're halfway through the season now, and the Tigers are 13 games under 500. They would need to go 50-31 the rest of the season just to get to 84 wins. 84 wins, probably, I'm not going to say for sure, like most years, because the American League wildcard has been a bleep show. 84 wins probably does not get you into the playoffs. That's what they'd have to do to get to 84 wins. Nonetheless, an 85, 86, 87 win total that has you more likely to be in a postseason position. That's almost 20 games over 500 in half a season. That is ridiculously difficult, if that is not clear. That is an ungodly win percentage the rest of the way. Like, better than any win percentage, it has to be, than any team that currently is playing. Like the Dodgers would probably be the closest. So what went wrong? We're going to start off, shockingly, I say sarcastically, with the offense. I mean, before the ninth inning, they had 3 hits and 1 walk. They had 4 base runners and 0 runs in the first 8 innings. Then in the ninth, they had a home run, they had a single. So they end with 6 base runners and 1 run. They didn't even have, this is remarkable, in a hilariously sad way, they didn't even have a RISP opportunity in this game. They went 0 for 0 with runners in scoring position because nobody got past first base outside of obviously the Dingler home run. They were absolutely dominated. They were miffed and befuddled by Tatsuya Amai's slider completely. They were not only whiffing, right? It's one thing to swing and miss, okay? That happens. It's baseball. These are major league arms. It's one thing to whiff. It's another thing for the entire lineup to consistently whiff 1 through 9 by like feet. It was staggering. They were quite literally swinging and missing by like 6+ inches on either side of the plate, either handness of batter. Not great. The top of your lineup, that all being said, had 4 hits and a walk, and one of those hits was a home run in the ballgame. That's McGonigal, Carpenter, Dingler, and Greene. Now, that's also with Carpenter going 0 for 4. So really, McGonigal, Dingler, and Greene, 3 of your top 4, had 4 of your 5 hits, your only walk, and your only extra base hit. Okay? Not bad for a top half of the lineup. Not anything spectacular. Oh my goodness, they're amazing. But like not terrible. And that stat line will win you some games just from the top half of your lineup. 5 through 9 in the lineup went 1 for 16 with no walks and 8 strikeouts. And this is a conversation we've kind of veered away from in the month of June because, as I've mentioned a few times throughout the month of June, they have outslugged their problems. But this is a game, and really the last 2 or 3 games have been somewhat of a reminder of what the reality of this situation is offensively. And that is that the core pieces are really, really good, and the players surrounding the core pieces have been really, really unproductive. To the point where they are hardly producing, period, end of sentence, in any situation throughout the entire year. Something else I think is noteworthy, 0 pinch hitters in this game. I think that's interesting. Obviously, they went righty and then righty and then righty, but still, I think for an AJ Hinch team, that probably hasn't happened too terribly often. Individually, anybody, I do want to talk about Carpenter just because he goes 0 for 4 in this one. Doesn't have any strikeouts, but he's just an incredibly streaky hitter. And I think the way that his approach is designed, he probably always will be, barring a massive influx in patience at the plate at some point in his career. This is what free swingers do production-wise. That they have months where their results for putting the ball in play a lot are very rewarding, and they have results month to month that are very unrewarding. And it's just, that's again what comes with an approach that has very little discipline. There's a lot of strikeouts in this bat. There's a lot of weak contact when he expands the strike zone, right? There's a lot of chasing and missing the barrel. But when he's right, and when he's on time and on point, he's also one of this team's best hitters. And obviously we know what his ceiling is, especially against right-handed pitching. The thing that I feel like is worth noting is that despite the fact that I still believe when he's right, he's one of the best hitters on this team, you look at his last 3 seasons, his numbers have gone down pretty substantially in each of those 3 years. And he gets hurt every single year as well, which shouldn't be completely ignored. He finds himself on the injured list multiple times every single year of his major league career. But I think pitchers have figured out how to pitch him rather. Avoid the heart of the plate. And that sounds super obvious, but it's like if you just throw him a ton of breaking balls low in the zone and fastballs at his eyes, he'll chase enough to work a 2-2 count, and you don't even have to throw the ball in the strike zone. The walk rate's up from last year, which I do appreciate, but even with that, the average has plummeted so low that his OBP is only 10 points higher than it was last year when he never walked ever. Just his last 3 years, you have the 930 or 920 OPS from 2024, and then last year was just under 800. And now this year, with still half a season left, it's sitting closer to the mid-700s. Okay, want to talk about a few more players, but nothing. Again, it was really offense-wide and just approach-wide in this one. But we'll get into that, and then what went right after this. First, though, I'm going to talk to you about our good friends over at Cash App. Being able to send money instantly is one of those things that's become so normal in today's world that you forget how much easier it makes everyday life, right? There's so many advancements with technology. This one is such a overlooked and important one. You can turn everyday spending into status with Cash App Greene as well. Now, just download Cash App today or visit cashapp.com to learn more about that and other financial benefits. Like when you spend at least $500 a month on the Cash App card, you can earn Greene status, which unlocks benefits like up to $200 of free overdraft coverage. And if you overdraft unexpectedly, there's no hidden fees. You also unlock higher borrow limits and custom personalized cashback offers every Friday at places you love to shop. New Cash App customers can earn $10 when they use Cash App 10, the code Cash App and the number 10, in their profile at sign up, and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Also, got to talk to you about our friends over at Game Time. There's nothing like watching the Tigers lose in person at beautiful Comerica Park. I went earlier this week with some family. It was a great time. And it's even better when you get to be in the park for that excruciating loss. The excitement, the fans. The only problem is getting tickets can feel like a grind. Long queues, surprise fees at checkout, so many other things that make it a hassle. That's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation, and it's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. So, spend less time searching and more time finding tickets without fees and great seats within minutes. That's what makes it so easy to get the Game Time guarantee. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will, of course, be back on Monday recapping this weekend against the Houston Astros, as well as, obviously, recapping anything else surrounding the Tigers organization, which we will have a lot of conversations going forward. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the show today as well. Join the Everydayer Club at LockedOnPodcast.com/everyday. You'll get a 7-day free trial if you join today, ad-free audio of this show, and access to a members-only group chat as well. Click the link in the show notes, or again, LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer. The Detroit Tigers lose 2-1 on Thursday evening, if you will. It's interesting. The Dingler home run and butterfly effect and ripple effect and all that. But it is not lost on me that the run that Kenley Jansen gave up, I feel like most people are just like, whatever. Like, we're getting shut out. I don't think anybody has faith that we're going to put a rally together in the 9th inning. But it ended up mattering, right? Dylan Dingler homers. And now one does not force extras. It just gets you straight up a loss because your almost 40-year-old closer that has had a brutal season gave up a run in a non-save situation. So I think Kenley Jansen deserves to be on there. But the star of this, what went wrong, is very obviously the offense. Colt Keith 0 for 4, seemed very frustrated with himself today. Somewhat understandably so. Spencer Torkelson 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. Zach McKinstry 0 for 3 with a strikeout. James Outman 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. And again, there legitimately wasn't even any clutch hitting or innings that were squandered because of failed opportunities to complain about, because they literally could not get past first base or even really on base for most innings. What went right? Troy Melton, 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 6 strikeouts, and a home run. Against his ERA is now 2.39 on the season. He was perfect through 5 innings. Absolutely incredible performance. His best start of the season. Hit a wonderful pitch mix in this game, which I really appreciated. Obviously, we know the velocity is always great and the slider is always really solid. But, he threw 5, maybe even 6 different pitches from start to finish in this game. And that is when you know that you're kind of feeling it, when you can, A, do that and command them all really well, B, do that. And he got whiffs on all of them, right? There was at least one swing and miss on pretty much all of those pitches. So he was stellar. I'm really glad he's healthy. And I think realistically, if you're looking at the foundational pieces that you want long-term in this organization and what you hope the future Detroit Tigers that are competitive and making playoff pushes and whatever look like, I think Troy Melton is in that mix. And that doesn't mean that he's necessarily the ace of the team going forward. I think there's still, hopefully you get Jackson Jobe at some point. There's still very high hopes for him to reach those heights. But I think Troy Melton's probably a fixture in the middle of the rotation for the next few years. And that's really exciting because he's a really talented young arm. This outing, perfect duality of whiffs and weak contact. Like I said, fastball, a lot of swing and miss, slider, some swing and miss. But then he had, the cutter, which didn't get a lot of swing and miss, but sawed off a lot of left-handed hitters, got him to pop out, got him to ground out, etc. He's fantastic. Kyle Finnegan, 1 inning, perfect baseball with a strikeout. It's admittedly, it's a really good time for him to stop walking people and start getting strikeouts. I think that his trade market is not going to be talked about nearly as much because we have Tarek Skubal, but I think it will be prominent. He has a sub-2 ERA, even if the peripherals look terrible. And last year in the second half, he had a sub-2 ERA and the peripherals were amazing. So that along with the fact that he wouldn't be a rental, he's under contract next year as well, I think could make for a relatively enticing trade market for Kyle Finnegan if the Tigers end up going that route. The underlying numbers stink, but they've been a lot better over the last 2 weeks, admittedly, and he has a 1.89 ERA. Over those last 2 or 3 weeks, he's looked much better than he did in May, regardless of what the ERA says. And whether they hold on to him or not, he's an important piece of this pen going forward. Tyler Holton, 1 inning, 1 hit, shutout, not great, not awful. We'll take it. And then offensively, the only people that really deserve to be talked about, Dylan Dingler with the solo homer, prevents the shutout, if you will, in the 9th inning. And then Riley Greene goes 2 for 4 in this ball game as well. That's pretty much it offensively. Stuff. I want to talk about Tarek Skubal and kind of that whole market, and it's a conversation I've teased really all week. We'll have that after the break. Before that, I do want to say Jack Flaherty looks like we'll be back on Sunday. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the preview at the very end of the show. Also, it is absolutely absurd that Dylan Dingler will not be an all-star game starter. Now, I still have faith that he will make the all-star game. I think that will happen, and we will avoid a complete meltdown from me and many others with that situation. However, he has been the best catcher in the American League. I would argue he has been the best catcher in Major League Baseball this season. Alejandro Kirk has had some great seasons, is a talented catcher behind the plate. He's been hurt for like a month and a half or 2 months, has been around a net zero producer for the Blue Jays this year, but the entire country of Canada is voting for all the Blue Jays. So this is why I hate fan voting. I've hated fan voting since I was like 15 years old, dude. Like, it's a fun, it's a novel idea. It's awesome. I understand the appeal of it. I understand the fun of it. But if you're going to put all-star games and all-star appearances in the hands of the fans, then when it comes to Hall of Fame voting, all-star appearances should not hold any weight in any capacity. Or you take matters into your own hands, make a system that gets players that are a little more deserving to be all-stars, and then they can matter when we're talking about, how good someone was in their career. But as long as we keep fan voting going, which again, like if we want it just to be like this fun thing and that doesn't matter to anybody and whatever, fine. But then we have to advertise it as such. We can't be sitting there on Hall of Fame inductions and be like, well, this person had 8 All-Stars and this person had 2. Like, I don't know. It's like, well, Betty Crocker was voting. I don't know. I think that there's a serious flaw in that, and it comes up whenever really anybody that's super deserving to be starting or in the All-Star game doesn't make it. But obviously I voice those opinions more when it's a Tiger, and that's what I'm doing here. Okay, let's talk Tarek Skubal. We'll do that right after this. First, though, going to talk to you about our friends over at FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Every match feels like a potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kickoff. Now, FanDuel is giving another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. You bet on a match, and you get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn in your token. USA played on Thursday against Turkey. There is so much great soccer happening, and now you can benefit from every goal scored. So from the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Lastly, we got to talk about HIMS. ED is much more common than most guys think. Millions of men deal with it at some point, and HIMS offers a simple, convenient way to take care of your health by connecting you with a licensed healthcare provider online and giving you access to personalized treatment options from the comfort of your own home. There's no awkward appointments, no pharmacy lines, just a straightforward process designed to make getting care even easier. Taking care of yourself shouldn't feel complicated, and HIMS makes the process private and easy to navigate. It's healthcare built around your schedule to maximize comfort. So, to get simple online access, personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/LockedOnMLB. That's hims.com/LockedOnMLB for your free online visit. hims.com/LockedOnMLB. Prescription required. See website for details and important safety information. Sildenafil is a generic version of Viagra. Viagra is a registered trademark of Viatris Specialty LLC and is not affiliated with or endorsed by Viatris. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in. As always, I want to talk Tarek Skubal. We haven't had an off day in a while. We're not going to have one for a little bit longer here. So I just wanted to begin this conversation, as the Tigers have now lost 3 in a row. There's going to be a lot of Tarek Skubal trade drama over the next couple of weeks. And we are all going to hear and see of a lot of mock trades, a lot of rumors, and we will have this conversation on this show probably a billion times from now until the trade deadline in early August, right? There is, especially post All-Star break, but really just in general, the month of July heading into early August, we're going to have this conversation. It might become a daily thing at some point, right? But we're going to start that conversation today. And I think that it's, a lot of people were saying going into the Yankees series, it's like, oh, the next 10 days determine the Tiger season. If they can have a good record there, they can play themselves back into the mix. Well, they've lost 3 straight. They just dropped a series to the Yankees and now are down 0-1 in a 4-game set to the Astros, who aren't even 500 themselves. My worst fear in life right now, truly, is that the Tigers are like 4 to 7 games back from the wild card. They set an insanely high asking price for Tarek Skubal, and then use the fact that the American League sucks as a bargaining chip to other organizations to try to get someone to overpay, right? And just say, you need to meet my demands because that, whoa, why did my camera just zoom in? Did anyone else see that? I swear I didn't touch anything. Whoa, we're going to go way back here. Okay. So you set a really high asking price and you say, hey, the American League blows, right? We don't need to trade them. We're fine making a run because the American League sucks and we've made runs in the second half of seasons before. But then they don't trade him. and then they miss the playoffs altogether. That's my biggest fear this season. I can live with most decisions that front offices make as long as they are intentional. And that's a point that I've brought up over and over and over again over the years on this show. It was very prominent in the Avila era. It wasn't really in the early Scott Harris era. Now the last couple of years, it's come back up again. You have to pick a clear direction. Letting the market decide your own team's future is absolutely effing preposterous to me. You are literally letting other general managers decide the future fate of your team that you are running. That is absurd. And if they go on a run here, that's not to say I need them to sell, but they need to intentionally not. If they go on a run here and are they win like 10 in a row or something, and they go on a crazy streak and they're back within 2 games by the All-Star break and they're in the mix, actually in the mix for a wild card spot come the trade deadline, and they don't sell, I can live with that. The entire point of all of this is to try to win a World Series at the major league level. You have to be in the playoffs to do that. And if this is the last year you have Tarek Skubal, you want to maximize that. The best pitcher in baseball over the last 2 years is certainly going to help you make a run or try to have success in the postseason. If you sell off Skubal, then to me, you need to go a step further. Trade Glaber, free agent at the end of the year. Trade Mize, free agent at the end of the year. Trade Flaherty, maybe for a bag of potato chips, but trade him. Anyone in the pen that has remote value. Again, few and far between, but you can get something for Finnegan a year and a half of. You can get something for Kenley Jansen. Even if it's, some 18-year-old in single A that is 8 years away from the majors. But what I cannot stand is, we're really not sure. I don't know. I don't love that trade. It's not great. We're 6 games out of the wild card. Let's just stand pat and see what happens because no one reached my demands. And then we lose all of those guys for nothing. We finish under 500, nonetheless, out of the playoffs. Also, the Tigers front office just said they're not going to trade him. If I have to hear that again, I'm going to scream myself, I don't even know, to sleep. It's June and the American League blows, okay? The GM of the team, the president of baseball operations of the team, is not going to publicly say, yep, the season's over. We're going to trade all of our best players in June when they're technically still 6.5 games out of it. If you don't trade him and aren't a playoff team, you better re-sign him or else I'm calling for jobs. That is a catastrophic failure. So we'll talk about market value. We'll talk about teams. Just punted my camera again. I'm the king of that. No one is better at punting their camera, no matter where it really stands in my office, than I am. We'll talk about price tag for Skubal. We'll talk about what teams will be in the mix for him. We'll talk about the market, right? We're going to have this conversation, like I said, a million times from now until the deadline. For now, I will tell you that I think most of the teams that are going to be interested in him are teams that have the money to re-sign him. So I don't think there's going to be too many small markets in there. I think that obviously they have to be in contention this year. Why would you give up assets if you're not? Also has to be a team that has some resources and has some young players or players in the system that you actually want. There's certainly a handful of those that come to mind. The other exception to all of those is the Milwaukee Brewers. I was having this conversation the other day. I actually think there is a path where the Brewers, despite having next to no chance of re-signing him unless the salary cap is implemented, have a chance. And I think even more so if there is a salary cap, that's going, or if the owners think that they're going to get a salary cap, maybe I should word it that way, then maybe there's more incentive for a smaller market team to make a run at them. But regardless, that's kind of how I feel right now. If you're more than 4 or 5 games out of it and not trending in the right direction, I believe you have to move on from him. Again, unless they surprise everybody and say, we want an extension. That's my first choice. My first choice is you just pay your best players and you pay the guy that's been the best pitcher in baseball for the last 2 seasons and you keep him because he's really good and you've proven that you can be a playoff team. But I don't think that's going to happen. So if, assuming I'm right, which is, I know, a leap for a lot of you, myself included, but assuming I'm right in that assessment, you have to move him if you're uncompetitive at the deadline. And I think it's ridiculous to then move Skubal and hold on to other expiring contracts. Pick a direction and go all in that direction and be intentional about it. Also, based on the young core that's already in place, I don't think it's impossible to be competitive like rather quickly again, right? Like just on the offensive side of the ball, right? You have Greene for a couple more years. You have McGonigal, obviously, for the next, 50 years. You have Dingler for the next 4 years. Like that is a 3 really good players. That is a really good foundation to kind of build around that. And like McGonigal is going to keep getting better even. Then you call up Max Clark, who's a top 10 prospect in all of baseball. That helps you up the middle, right? Your pillars are visible. And if you trade all of those guys, you trade Skubal for a big return, you can fill in the supporting cast and add to those pillars with guys you get from the Skubal deal. You then can do the same thing with guys you get maybe for Gleyber or maybe for Mize in a career year, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to get an all-star caliber 22-year-old, everyday player for half a year of Gleyber Torres with all the injuries and whatnot, or certainly not for any of the bullpen pieces. But I don't think that it would take, again, you have 3 of the best players in baseball. You literally have 2 top 10 players in the league. I don't think that you have to do a full teardown and start from scratch and do a full rebuild 2.0, 3.0, whatever we're at this point. I think you can trade those assets, fill in the holes with young players, and kind of retool and be competitive again, maybe as soon as, the end of next year or 2028. In the meantime, we root for them to make a run, and we root for them to be comfortably in a playoff spot, so it is very clear which direction they should take. That starts with getting back on the horse this weekend. Cater Montero against Spencer Arrighetti. The Tigers faced him just about a week and a half ago. TBD against Framber Valdez on Saturday. And then TBD versus TBD on Sunday. The incredible matchup of the player pitching against himself. However, we are pretty confident that's going to be Jack Flaherty, and they're going to roll with a 6-man rotation, at least for the foreseeable future, once he comes back. And then we'll talk about the corresponding move. It'll be someone at the bottom of the bullpen will be the roster casualty for Flaherty. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow. Nope, Monday. Also, I'm still working on lighting. I've seen multiple comments about how, like, somebody said I looked green. I hope that's not a real life thing, and that is just the camera. But I'm still like setting up with new camera, new lights, new mic, like everything. I'm still kind of messing with stuff and messing with settings and lighting and all of that. So bear with me as I go through trial and error. But I appreciate your concern, and we'll be back Monday. All right, peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.